Hello my friends, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdown or quarantine. It's been going on for about 2 months, so a lot of people are being creative, and this is a good time for those who have been prepping and putting some of their reserves into use, and that's what I'm doing here. So this is my butternut squash. It's dehydrated. It's from 2017, so this is already 3 years old. It's like new, like fresh. So I've been using this. This particular container is holding approximately a dozen butternut squash in it. So when I use this, it's in a concentrated form. So here, typically, like when I make pancakes, it'll be about 1/8 of a cup of this into the pancake mix. Now, before you use it for something like that, you should reconstitute the powder, because when it's dried, there is small hard chunks in there that is almost like grits and corn grits. So you don't want that texture. So it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes of soaking in warm water to reconstitute and make it all soft. So that's pretty easy. You can mix that up as you're prepping everything else or getting the other things ready to cook. So, and the pancakes are wonderful to eat. So this particular mix, I weighed the amount when I dried it, and it comes out to 1/2 cup to 3 cups of water. So that's about a 6-to-1 ratio, and that was determined by the weight loss in the dehydration process. So that tells me exactly how much water was removed. So I add the same amount back. Once that's reconstituted, then I mix up my pancakes. And this can be used also in other baking items. You can even make pies and cakes with this. So let's get started. Here we have the dehydrated and powdered butternut squash, and you can see here I write on the label how to reconstitute: 1/2 cup to 3 cups of water. I also write on the lid, I'll put the date, and you can see here 2017, so this is 3 years old. And this 1 quart container contains roughly 10 to 12 squash. And in a previous video I showed how to dehydrate this squash, and when I measured the volume, it was a 10-to-1 ratio. And then since that video I did another test where I did the weight to see what the water loss would be, and it came out to this, which is close to 6-to-1 ratio. So when I mix this up, reconstitute it, I use the ratio of the water weight. So for making pancakes, 1/2 cup is way too much. So I have here measured, this is a 1/4 cup measuring, and it is half full. There's a halfway marker there. So this is 1/8 of a cup. So I'm using 1/8 of a cup into my recipe. Now to this I'm going to add warm water, and we have to let it set about 10 minutes to absorb, or else your pancakes will have like little grits inside. These are hard, just like corn grits. So when it reconstitutes, it will be a nice creamy paste. When it comes to adding a pancake mix, I always buy a complete, and the reasoning for that is when I'm storing this for long term, I want to be able to just add water to make the pancake. Now of course, when I do that, I do add some oil if I have it, just because it makes a better pancake. And sometimes I'll put an egg in to increase the protein that's in the pancake. So this particular mix is from Aldi's, and it's a very tasty pancake. When I store any of my long-term storage foods, dehydrated foods, I always put in a oxygen inhibitor. These will absorb any oxygen that is in the jar. I also use my food saver, the vacuum feature, to draw a vacuum on these jars. So I vacuum as much air that I can out of it, and whatever residual is left, the oxygen inhibitor will absorb that oxygen and lock it into these. These are small packets. One is enough for a quart jar. The pancake mix, once I open a package or when I get the package home, I usually put it into quart jars, and you can see here the oxygen inhibitor, and that also will draw a vacuum on the jar because it reduces the air volume by locking that oxygen up. So the only thing I see on here is I don't have it dated, which I should be doing that. 1/8 cup butternut squash. To that we add 3/4 cup of warm water. 3/4 cup of warm water. And now we're going to leave that set for 10 to 15 minutes. This is 5 minutes. And still a little more grit. So we're going to let it go 5 more minutes. 10 minutes has expired. And it's absorbed all the water. No more sitting at the bottom. And out of curiosity, let's see what volume we have. Okay, still looks like about 3/4 of a cup. Time to do the pancake. 3/4 cup of butternut squash. To this we're going to add 1 cup of pancake batter. 1 cup of pancake mix. And to that should be 3/4 cup of water. And I like to add a little bit of olive oil. Seems to be the right consistency. Let's make some pancakes. Because of the higher sugar content in the squash, the pancakes may have a little bit of a tendency to stick. Perfect pancake. Before I flip the pancake, I look at the bubbles, and they start around the perimeter. They break, and if they don't close, that's what you're looking for, that they're not closing. You want it to start looking like it's a little bit drying on the surface. Beautiful color. Before I move it, I want the bottom to start to toast a little bit, but you can see it's sticking on the other side. Well, that one cup of pancake batter made 4 of my pancakes, and the recipe on the box, depending on the size of pancakes that you make, it'll determine the number that you get. On the box, 1 cup of mix should be making 6 pancakes. So I'm going to eat this before it gets cold. Oh, they smell wonderful. When you add the water to the dried powder, in about 5 minutes, then you start getting an aroma coming off of that powdered mix that you just added the warm water to. And that's letting you know that it's going to be a good pancake. Okay, a lot of people like syrup on theirs. If I use syrup, I use maple syrup, but to me the syrup covers the flavor of the butternut squash, and butternut squash has its own delicate sweetness, and the maple syrup may mask that. It still will be great pancake. I love maple syrup, but I don't use syrup on these pancakes. I may use a little bit of Kerrygold butter. Butter usually makes everything taste better. Okay, let's see what this tastes like. Oh yeah, definitely a good taste of the squash in there. So this I'm eating for breakfast, but the others I put in my refrigerator, and I'll take those and eat them as a cold snack. They are really good. This is one recipe you need to try. Pancakes, light, fluffy. They puffed up the way a pancake should. If you use too much other additive, I make a lot of pancakes with sweet potatoes, and of course dehydrated. And a lot of times those are a little bit heavier too. But if you adjust the amount that you're adding into the recipe, you'll still get a nice fluffy pancake. It's a good meal. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was very informative. If you like this type of video, you should check out my nephew's channel. He has a really good recipe on dehydrated chicken soup in a jar. It's a good one to watch. So I'll set a link to his channel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.